we don't know what would have happened, right? If you had found out that you had ADHD younger and you did something about it, I mean, I don't know if you would you have a different life? Would you have gotten hit by a truck? Like, we don't
Right.
really, we don't know
No,
what
but
will.
we don't know. We don't know. Hi, welcome to the ADHD Social Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Caroline Maguire. Before we get into it, this is part 2 of my conversation with ADHD expert Inger Shaye Colzie. If you missed part 1, go back, watch part 1, and then come back here. In part 2, we go deep into ADHD in women, and we ask this question: what would have happened had I been diagnosed when I was younger? Both Inger and I were diagnosed, once we were mature women, and I think it really would make a difference. And we really talk deep into what diagnosis does for you. We both talked about this concept that when I was undiagnosed, I would sometimes have what I call cloudy days where things just didn't come together for me. And then I would have a good day and I just couldn't string all the good days together. And then how after diagnosis, you have such wonderful tools that will allow you to string together those good days. So let's get into it. This was an incredibly rich conversation. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Thanks, friends. I think so many times people get stuck in the mask and they don't, you said a couple things. It no longer was your identity and you loved you as much. And I think that a lot of times when people are in the mask, they feel like people won't love me as much and I won't love me as much. And they feel like these catastrophic things are going to happen. And I love that you talked about you get to decide. I think the whole fear of not appearing a certain way is so powerful because I think that is a big piece during masking is I have to appear this way. And listen, sometimes you do, sometimes it's not safe.
Absolutely. Sometimes you do, but being able to pick when you're going to do that and make those decisions for yourself is so much more freeing. And I find that, again, things we say are ADHD symptoms, quote unquote symptoms, the parts that you don't like, sometimes they become, it's not so bad. So I also talk about when I start to lose my words, which is kind of happening right now a little bit. But, as you get older and your hormones, what I had found was, as a therapist, I'm talking and I'm trying to explain something to my client, and the word is in my head, but it won't come out of my mouth. And I'm like, holy, and I'm like, what's happening? Do I have early onset dementia? But also, what does a therapist that can't talk do? And that's
No.
actually really, I got my actual diagnosis when I found somebody that got diagnosed at a CHAD meeting and basically put her in a corner. It's like, what did you do? How'd you get this done? Because
Tell me the process.
yes, because as we know, it is a privilege, not a right, to get diagnosed, which is a whole nother. We'll have to come back another time for that.
That
Autism,
is a different discussion, but a
Tylenol,
worthy
autism.
discussion.
Anyway, yes, we'll talk about that another time. But that's when I got diagnosed because I was like, we got to figure this out. It scared me to death. And so, once I got diagnosed, and I will tell you, I do take medication because I chose to. But it really was, once I knew what it was and I was able to kind of figure it out and manage some things with the way that my ADHD roll, it stopped happening as much. Also, when it happens, I just keep going. Again, it's happened here. But I just keep going. And I find that most people, if I forget a word, they fill it in, right?
Right.
Because,
Because other people forget words, but when you're ADHD, you assume nobody else forgets words. I used to, Inger, when I was a little kid, because I'm dyslexic, I used to call them cloudy days. And I would come home and I would say to my mom, I had a cloudy day. I couldn't reach the information. It was there. I memorized it. I studied, but I couldn't get it out and I couldn't get it from here to here and to produce it. And if I had a big test, I would say, I really hope I don't have a cloudy day because I really need to do well on this the points are needed. And sometimes I would still have a cloudy day. And it's not that I don't forget words and all the things you're describing still, but I don't make as big a deal about it because I have so few cloudy days, because I have the diagnosis, because I have the stimulation, because I have the ADHD medications. So it's so, also for those who don't have a diagnosis, if you're thinking about it, I just can't sell enough. It changes the whole game.
Yes, especially as a therapist, I will always advocate for diagnoses. I have people that come to me or come to the there's an international ADHD conference every year where I get to see my friend in person. Um, and I run a group for Black women with ADHD. And last year, I think the woman was 75. But this has happened every year. But last year, I think she was 75. And she was like, well, I'm 75. Should I bother getting diagnosed? And I was like, you're here, right? So you're still walking around having a life. Yes, right? Like, as long as you're here doing things, why wouldn't you want to at least try to find out what's happening? And then you can decide what you want to do with that diagnosis too. It doesn't mean you have to take medication. It doesn't mean you have to do anything. But what it
Right.
does mean is that now, for me, when I got diagnosed, I know some people are like, they spend a lot of time in some shame or like sadness of what could have been. For me, that was like, I don't know, 10 minutes. And then it was like, because now for me, it's like, now I know what I need to work on. Like, oh, having an answer meant that then there's something I can do, as opposed to some days would be really great. Some wonderful things would happen. And then there'd be days where I was like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just so confused.
You're like,
And
what
so
day of the week is it?
I'm masking my way through that day, looking, really looking great, doing whatever I was doing on the inside going, what the? And I didn't know why. That was the thing. I had no idea. I didn't know how to replicate the good days at all because
Right.
I did not know why. And so when I got the diagnosis, I would say probably by the time I woke up the next day, I was like, okay. When we dive in and do the deep dive that most people do when they get a diagnosis, it was more about what do I need to do about this as opposed to um, really worrying about what happened in the past because I can't change that. I can't change that it took me 8 years to get out of undergrad. I can't change that. I can't change all the jobs that I had and either quit before I got fired or got fired. I can't change that. I can't change any of that. What I could change was my tomorrow. And that's what I began to do. The first thing I did was go back to all of my clients that had ADHD, which was most of them, and apologize and then change their treatment plans because that was the missing link. I was like, oh, do you know what? All the things that they're talking about, like, yeah, there's this client, that client, like they all had ADHD and they wondered why we could get to a certain point and we weren't going any further. So, yes, get diagnosed if you can.
If you
Eh,
can. And I know it's not
Yes,
easy. And I know in certain countries there's huge wait lists, and fully aware, and also can't not advocate for it because it is so life changing. And especially if you're sort of on the fence or you're saying, why should I do this? I just love your story. And I love the description of I couldn't replicate the good days, because that is always how I felt. I was like, what happened today? Why was today so good? And I couldn't figure it out and I couldn't replicate it. And I think, Inger, do you think there's like you're saying, you spent like 10 minutes and then you moved forward, right? But I feel like a lot of folks, there's so much late diagnosis, right? The diagnostic rates are exploding. I heard of the best book title when I was in England this summer, and I'm actually going to have the person, of course, now I can't remember their name, so I apologize. The book is It's Not a Bloody Trend. And love that, because it's not a trend. It's people getting agency and getting their ability to get diagnosed and having had time during the pandemic. I can't tell you how many people I know who were just like, I have all this time. I'm going to fill out the paperwork. I'm going to call Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm going to do all the stuff that I couldn't do because I was commuting 2 hours a day, right? But there's a lot of people I feel like have sort of a longer grieving process than you did. And I just wonder, how do they move out of that? Because I feel like I meet so many people and I'm like, at some point, it is too bad that you're 50 and getting diagnosed. It is. I totally validate that. But now you know, and you get to get this new life.
Hmm. So, as somebody who was diagnosed late, it's funny when people are like, I got diagnosed 25 or 30. I'm like, hold my beer, right? Like,
Well,
I
I only
I'm
say
late,
25 so
late.
that people know, because people are always like, what's your
Yeah.
story? And I'm
Oh,
like,
I
well,
know.
I got diagnosed at 12, but they said I was a girl, so they told my mother not to worry about it.
Yeah, the stories. I hear the stories. No, I make a joke out because I'm like, I'm late diagnosed.
Hold my
So
beer.
I think being that later diagnosed and being a therapist, right? So done some processing, allowed for it to maybe not be as long as you know, being in that like, oh, what if cycle. So, and I want to honor people's feelings about that, right? I'm just giving my story because I think that a big part of what we're talking about is like people not honoring other people's lived experience. And that is the
Yes.
most important part. And if that grief is part of your experience, I am not here to dismiss it because for me, it's not a big part of my journey for me, right? If it,
Absolutely.
yeah, if it is for you, then let's address it. And I do have to address it with most of my clients. And I do get it because I will say it felt like that, you know, I don't know for you, did your life like flash? It's like a movie. It went, oh.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I don't know if you know my story, Inger. I was in a ballroom. I worked for Johnson & Johnson, and they were launching a new drug called Concerta. And I sat, they do train you very well, and I sat in the ballroom and I listened to Russell Barkley and Thomas Brown and all these famous people who I didn't know who they were. They were just people that the drug company brought in. And I was like, that's me. That's me. That's me. This is, and I was not, by the way, I was like the worst drug rep in all of America. I was hanging on to the job by like the skin of my teeth. And I called my mom from a break and said, don't I have that ADHD thing? And she said, yeah, and they said you grow out of it because you're a girl, but like, and then she told me all the things. I'm messy, whatever. But I was like, okay. It was like all my life as I'm listening to Russell Barkley, I'm like, oh, that's me. Oh, this is why I slept on top of my laundry in college and never like put it away. Right? And people who know me now would be like, no, right? But like I did, everyone. I did. I slept on my laundry at college at times because I didn't ever put it away, and I would be so exhausted because I ran the school newspaper that I would just crash. And I remember thinking, how do people get their laundry put away?
Yes. Yes. Right. So I think it was those things I definitely wondered. Um, but it is like, so when you are like, grieving that, or, and I'm here going, yeah, I slept on my laundry. And I remember being judged for it, right? People come in my room was like a mess. Like I didn't want anybody in. And I came in, like, oh my goodness. It was because out of sight, out of mind. I put
Yeah.
stuff away. I wouldn't know where it was. So I didn't. So I didn't know that. I did know that. I kind of knew if I put it away, I won't know where it is. But I had no idea why that would be. And isn't that, I knew it wasn't that it was for everybody, but why isn't it for other people? So, like that type of confusion, I always say I lived a life of confusion. I just didn't ever tell anybody. And so, being out of that confusion, I think, is part of the relief part where I talk about like not grieving it. But when people do like grieve that part of their lives, I talk about the fact that we don't know what would have happened, right? If you had found out that you had ADHD younger and you did something about it, I mean, I don't know if you would you have a different life? Would you have gotten hit by a truck? Like, we don't
Right.
really we don't know
No,
what
but we don't know. We don't know.
we don't know. So just assuming it would be a whole lot better to me is different. And I still, I want to be clear, an advocate for diagnosis and as soon as possible. I think knowledge is a big part of this. And so you can have the acceptance that you need to live a good life. But I have younger. I don't really deal with people that are too young, but you do. So I know some kids that were diagnosed early who still will have some of the same issues because it's ADHD, right? Like, so if you had known earlier, it doesn't mean that you still might have slept on your laundry.
Right. Well, and so I have clients of all ages, and some of my younger clients, teenage clients especially, they struggle. Part of executive function weaknesses, they don't have self-awareness, and they don't, want advice. And they say, I don't want to talk about me sleeping on my laundry. I only want to focus on this. And then probably when they're older, maybe they'll say, I need to look at this. It's not, the way I want to live. But there's no guarantee that just because I wish people would have earlier diagnosis, right? Because I wish for them that they would have that peace, but I don't know what your life would be. And I'll say this for myself, I feel like the journey I have been meant to take this journey so that I could help people. And if I hadn't lived that, I think I'd be like, what are you talking about?
That's why I love you, right? Like, because talk about mission driven. I was telling somebody I'm doing all these different things at the conference that I mentioned, the ADHD conference. I'm doing way too many presentations. Stop me next time. But somebody's
Okay,
like, oh,
is that my new job? I'm going to stop you.
yes, please stop me. Somebody's like, oh, because all these things, like you do all these things, like it was praise. And I was like, yeah, it's great and all. I was like, it's not that, it's mission driven, right? So that meant for more part of a lot of us with ADHD. I felt that like something just, there was something I was supposed to be doing. I knew there was something I was supposed to be doing. I could not figure out what it was. I've done a lot of things, and a lot of things have turned out well. And none of them were quite what I was supposed to be doing. And when I got my ADHD diagnosis and drilled in, I was like, oh, this is what you were supposed to be doing. So now it's like mission driven. So it so doing my job for me is very easy, right? It takes up some bandwidth, but it's energy giving. It is not as much energy draining because this is what I'm here for. Also being able to articulate for someone doesn't have anyone who understands, to be like, oh my God, even if it's like someone I just might meet on the street or at a party like the other day, uh, for them to have somebody who gets it, even for a few minutes, the relief that they get is like why I'm here, right? And I also started a nonprofit, the ADHD Black Professionals Alliance, which is also like mission driven. So it's for Black professionals that serve Black people with ADHD and also for any Black person with ADHD so that, we can have education, advocacy, community, and take care of each other, especially in these times, with our ADHD and our neurodiversity. And it's like, oh, this is why I'm here. And I would not have gotten there without this. And I wouldn't have known without living, I think, all the years that I lived it. All the years that I lived not knowing is the reason why I'm where I am today. I'm 1,000% sure. So for me, part of it is that I think about some things I'd like to change, maybe, but not really, right? So that's another reason why I say get diagnosed even if it's later in life, because you're not dead. You might be surprised sometimes when you get that type of relief if you can let go of that shame and that, grief. Because like anything with grief, it has a process. Like it's up and down, up and down. But when you can kind of get to the part where you can carry what happened before in a way, like imagine like if somebody died, you don't ever get rid of the grief, but you carry that pain and that feeling in a way that you can still move forward. When you can carry that forward, I think you're shocked at all the things that you can do. You can do a lot of things, and the things that you want to do. We're back to that. The things you want to do, not necessarily things that everybody else wants you to do.
So well said. And I feel the same way. I feel that, all the bullying, all the things that happened when I was little, if I hadn't been bullied, not that I enjoyed it or want to go back, because you could offer me $1 million and I'd be like, I am not going back to elementary school. But I do feel like it was meant to be so I could understand people, so that I could say, I see you, I understand. I understand this is scary. I understand, and I identify with you. And I also think that all the things you're doing, and we will link the alliance in the show notes. I think you are doing so much that will matter and will have a ripple effect. And I think it's because you're you. I think it's because you understand. I think that you show up as this like super compassionate person, and you know, if you don't understand, if you haven't been through it, maybe you're not as compassionate. Maybe, you know, this is tough. It's so tough, and I don't want to, anybody who's out there and you're grieving and you're angry at your family of origin, or you're angry at the teachers, and I get it. I really do. But I also think, I don't care if you're 75, 85, whatever time you have, you now get to choose and replicate those good days and feel better about things. And also say, what do I not care about? What am I putting aside? And I know that's easier said than done. That's why people like Inger exist. So she can help you through it. Inger, you do so much, and I'm super grateful, like, for the world, because I believe that we're here to do things for the world. Tell me, like, where can people find you? Where can people find all of these wonderful resources? Because you're doing all this great stuff to help women.
Well, first off, thank you for that. So I am at Inger Shaye on all the socials. I have a Facebook group, Black Women with ADHD Executives and Entrepreneurs. So that's a great place to come and join, and you can see me in there. And IngerShaye.com, and the ADHD Black Professionals Alliance is linked to my website. So you can come and see about the things that we're doing there, and donate if you would like. And so those are some places that you can find me, and come see me. Oh, and hit me on LinkedIn. That's right. Hit me on LinkedIn, because that's a place that just doesn't seem quite as cluttered for me. Where if you can just find me, again, at Inger Shaye on LinkedIn, it's a place where I find I can talk to people a little easier.
Yeah, I like LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't as cluttered. I like that description. LinkedIn is a little bit less cluttered. Also, I just find it sort of overstimulating. Like, I go on Instagram every day. I have a great following. I love my community. But then, like, there's so much in the feed. There's, like, you know, everything from news to hair products. And sometimes I get, like, kind of overwhelmed. So I like LinkedIn. I think it's a great place. We will link all this information, because if you haven't come to the International Conference on ADHD, and you can't come, you can listen to the recordings after. But if you can come, I can't describe enough, Inger. I feel like it's such a place where we have each other.
It's so, I said, because I'm laughing, because when it was in Philly the first time I went and I was a participant, I was not someone who, that's my whole coaching story. It's another day, but being a participant to the next day, being somebody who's a presenter. And when I went as a participant, I was like, oh, I'm going to participate in a session with someone. And then I'm going to get some CEs for my therapy and eat a dry ham sandwich. And I tell people that one day I'll eat a dry ham sandwich and one day I'll eat a dry turkey sandwich. That is not what the ADHD conference is. It's the opposite of dry. It's a place where I've never seen so many people loving on each other, being acceptance, like people interrupting each other and being like, that's okay. That's where I met our friend Renee Brooks. She didn't know me from anywhere. I had seen her and I heard her voice and I hugged her. Like, I'm from Philadelphia. We don't hug people we don't know. And so I was like kind of mortified that I had hugged her like that. Like, oh my goodness. She was so gracious, and she was like, no, I'm glad somebody here, like, how can I be upset about that? And we've been friends ever since that day. Like, that's what the conference is. And, even meeting you was like, oh my goodness, like, I see, it's like you meet some people and it's like that instant connection. And I do feel like everybody at some point, if you can, because the conference goes around the country. If you can come, even if it's just to one of the days, find a way to come, because I think that type of acceptance is what we all need to be able to really live the life we want with ADHD.
Yeah, I've been coaching for 21 years, and I've been going for 22 years because I went my first year when I was just training in the coach world. And I will tell you that it is a place where I feel like you can be completely yourself. You lose your cell phone, no one judges you. You lose your room key, people, give it to you and find it for you. Like it's not a place where you have to mask. It's a place where you can be completely yourself. It's a place where you can sit and talk to, people who you've watched their webinars and they're just chatting with you. Yeah, and I felt an instant click with you as well. I love our mutual friend Renee Brooks, and she is amazing. She and I had an instant click too. Maybe I just talk to so many people and I'm like, I'm going around talking to everybody. But you know what it is too, though? I think there's something about you both are people trying to change the world, and I am trying to change the world too. And so I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. I love
Well,
this.
I love it too. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, I can't say enough. Check Inger out. She's incredible. She also has an incredible sense of humor. So sometimes she makes me laugh so hard if you check out her stuff. And I will link everything because I know a lot of people will be so excited to come to your Facebook group, etc. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you next time.